Buenos dias, señores well, you know what I mean. I'm going to first give you a little background of my retail career. I've been in retail for 50 years, and I've seen evolution from push carts, not that old, but all the way up to the greatest retailers of our day. I started with a company called Sears Roebuck, and I remember what got me really excited about the retail business was that I had a store manager that walked by early in the morning when I was a trainee, and he looked at this end cap, and he got real excited. And I said, "Why are you so excited?" He said, "You see, you're putting merchandise on this shelf, and this is early in the morning. And when I come here at night and I see that shelf empty, I'm excited." You know, that's what retailing's all about. How do you get that merchandise from the manufacturer into the consumer? Well, I started at Sears, worked my way, ended up Montgomery Ward, may they rest in peace. Moved over to a company called Jefferson Stores in Miami. Went to work for a company called W.R. Grace. They were in the shipping business, but they were also in many retailers. I had one company, I was CEO of a women's apparel chain. And that was really interesting because I had very little apparel experience. Then they moved me to Herman's. And Herman's was great. Herman's was a fun store. It was around, 6,000 square feet. And you loved going into the store because you'd either play with a basketball or swing a bat or get on the exercise equipment. It was really a fun store to be with. And Herman's was the biggest player in the game. Now, the evolution of sporting goods started way back when it had 8 running feet of a gondola in a department store. Then it went into corner sporting goods stores. You know, the jock that played college football tore out his knee, decided he wanted to open up a sporting goods store. Then came Herman's. And Herman's was the biggest player in town. It was a great company. And Mr. Grace, who in my opinion was one of the greatest industrialists of our day, loved the company. And he would always be in the Herman store, always giving us criticism, being critical. I'll never forget one time he walked in December 23rd. Now you can imagine what a retail store looks like December 23rd. And he had the guts to send me an email saying, "You had empty shelves. Your store was a little mixed up." And I wrote him back, "Thank you for your Christmas greetings, Mr. Grace." But anyhow, that's what happens in Herman's. Well, when all of a sudden big stores were opening up, Costco, first before Costco was a company called Price Club. Price Club was a great new experience, which later became Costco. And today is Sam's, and today is BJ's Warehouse. Then came Home Depot, big store. Whatever happened to the small little hardware stores? Customers wanted assortment, big stores. Then came Office Depot. No longer a stationery department in a store. It's now a big store selling stationery, more than you can imagine. This became something that stuck in my mind. What would happen if we ever did a big sporting goods store? Now, the average Herman store came about, maybe 10,000 SKUs. It's a lot. It's a lot of assortment. In other words, you had good, better, best. Maybe you had, in most cases, you had good, better, best. But in the big box format, you had to really fill up a store 40, 50,000 square feet. It meant something different. Anyway, I stuck this in the back of my mind. I received a phone call one day from Mitt Romney. I think you've heard the name. Mitt Romney is running for president of the United States, and hopefully he'll win. Mitt Romney was with Bain Capital. He was a VC at the time. And called me in and he said, we'd like you to open up a warehouse sporting goods store. And he brought 6 VCs with him from different companies. It was First Chicago Bank, William Blair Company, Security Pacific, Bessemer Securities, and Bain. And their idea was to have a big warehouse store. Concrete floors, poor lighting. Don't price the merchandise because it costs labor to ticket all the goods. And I said, nah, that won't work. This was my idea. My idea was to have a big store, a lot of merchandise, carpet on the floor, fashion fixtures like you would find at Saks Fifth Avenue, service, everywhere service. Every piece of merchandise in the store had to be price ticketed. I didn't want the consumer going through like you all, when you go through a food market, you have no idea what you paid for the goods until the cashier rings it up. I wanted that customer to know when she put it in her basket, she knew what she was paying for it. 40,000 SKUs. That was something to swallow. Well, I convinced them that my idea would work. And we opened up our first store. Our first store was in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Now, they didn't want me to go to Fort Lauderdale, Florida. They wanted me to go to Chicago, New York, where the big markets are, where the higher income levels, younger people. Well, I said I didn't think that was a good idea. I'd like to try it in Florida. Why? The income levels were low, and the average age was high. And they said, well, why would you want to do that? I said, well, if it works there, it'll work everywhere. So you're only gambling one store to be either a successful company or a failure. And as you know, failure is an orphan. Success has many fathers. Well, this company, we opened up the first store. It opened in November of 1987. And retailing was going through a complete transition. Stores were opening, stores were closing, sales were running all over the place. I wanted something different. I wanted to run a company that had loyalty. How do you get loyalty to the consumer? I want her to shop me every day, like Starbucks does with their coffee. You people will go I've seen Starbucks restaurants, coffee shops, next to Einstein's Bagels, selling coffee, and they'll bypass that and go in here to drink their coffee because that's consumer loyalty. Well, that's what I wanted to get. I wanted to get consumer loyalty. So how do you do it? Everyday low pricing. Wasn't my idea. Home Depot was doing it. Walmart tried to do it and still does it, except they do break the barrier once in a while with sales. I wanted an everyday, low price retailer, a retailer that would take the consumer and say, I want to shop here because it's a fun store, because I get service, because I know I'm not overpaying, and I don't have to wait for a sale. I don't have to wait till the Thursday or the Sunday papers come out. I'll go there on a Monday, Tuesday. It's going to be the same price. Tennis balls are $1.99 a can every day of the week. You're over here, you're selling them at $4.99, I think. But they're still $1.99 at Sports Authority. And I convinced everybody this was going to be a winner. Well, the first store opened up, and we did $1 million the first month. And like I say, I had a lot of fathers. All my VCs there were very excited. Home run. But then they start to challenge you. And they say, well, maybe you were lucky with that store. Let's see what the second store is going to do. Opened up a second store about 20 miles down the road in North Miami. Store was another success. He said, well, maybe you're successful in South Florida. I say, okay, let's see what we do. We'll put one up in Tampa. Now, that's when my strategy changed. Because now I knew, as a retailer in all my life, that I had a winning concept. I knew that what we were doing was right. I knew what we were doing was what the consumer wanted. So I said, if I'm good, if I'm really good, and I'm better than my competition, go next door to your competition. I mean right next door. Be across the street from them. Because if you're better, consumers are going to find you. You don't want them shopping your competitor because they're more convenient. So we did. We opened up in Tampa. We opened up 2 stores up in the Tampa market. Now we have 4. Very successful. Opened up another one in South Miami. Tremendous success. They said, well, maybe you're a Florida company. Maybe that's as far as you're going to go. I said, well, let's try something else. I opened up one in Washington, D.C. Well, actually, Northern Virginia, Tyson's Corner, home run. Now we're in companies, let's see, we're just about a year old, and I'm having a board meeting with 6 VCs. Now, if anybody in the audience has ever worked with venture capital players, they know what torture I went through. It was absolute torture. I would be told what to buy, what colors to buy, where to put stores, and I would ask the question, what's your experience? Oh, I'm 32 years old, I just got out of Harvard. That was his experience, telling me what colors to buy and where to put stores. I realized at that time, this wasn't going to work. I realized at that time that I had a home run here, but I was going to be curtailed. Now, I'd like to show you something. I'd like to show you some commercials that made us different from our retailers. Would you play the commercials, please? Now, there's 4 commercials with some entertainers doing the commercials, and there's a radio spot that I'd like you to really listen to. Play the commercials, please.
Do I have to tell you I'm heavy into fashion? I don't think so. So you probably know about the Sports Authority's everyday low prices on sports fashions. They've got more clothes for more sports than you've ever seen. This place is huge. I mean, yesterday they're running a marathon through the sock department.
The Sports Authority. You've never seen anything quite like it.
So let's run or jog over there. What do you say? I'll meet you there. I got a car.
The challenge. Pushing yourself to the very limits of physical endurance. Start by getting your equipment at the Sports Authority. We have the lowest prices on everything you need to make your workout more enjoyable.
Buffet sold separately.
The Sports Authority. You've never seen anything quite like it.
When I'm hobnobbing with the jet set, I know just what to wear. But when it comes to sports, I don't know what's apropos. That's why I know someone who does.
The Sports Authority, a sporting goods store that always brings you the lowest prices on everything, from activewear to footwear to equipment, every day of the year.
They put the ooh in ooh la la.
The Sports Authority. You've never seen anything quite like it.
Darling, I can tell you what to wear to catch a man, but what to wear to outrun one, I don't know where to begin. But I know someone who does.
The Sports Authority, a sporting goods store where you'll find the biggest selection of activewear, footwear, and equipment around, all at everyday low prices.
Trust me, darling, it will be love at first sight.
The Sports Authority. You've never seen anything quite like it.
When it comes to love in your life, I can tell you everything. But when it comes to love on the tennis court, I don't know the score. But I know someone who does.
The Sports Authority, a sporting goods store staffed with knowledgeable salespeople in every department who can answer all your questions and help you find whatever you need.
It's the place to go for a very active sports life.
The Sports Authority. You've never seen anything quite like it.
I've always been pretty good at outsmarting my opponents. But when my opponent's a trout, I don't know where to begin. Good thing I know someone who does.
The Sports Authority, A sporting goods store filled with more name brand activewear, footwear, and equipment than you've ever seen in one place. All at everyday low prices.
They've got something for everyone in the house.
The Sports Authority. You've never seen anything quite like it.
8 hours to hike down into the Grand Canyon. Yet you could easily spend twice as long shopping at the Sports Authority. Why? Simply because it's the biggest sporting goods store you've ever seen. Perhaps you better pack a lunch, wear comfortable shoes, and cancel your dinner date. Because you don't know what big is till you see the Sports Authority. Marathon runners get into shape just by shopping there. Plus, the Sports Authority features all the best brand names at prices so low we don't need to have sales. Just everyday low prices. So how big is the Sports Authority? Well, ever been to Denmark? It may be a small country, but it makes a huge sporting goods store. Come to the Sports Authority. You've never seen anything quite like it.
Now that radio commercial.
The last two personalities, Dr. Ruth was a famous sex psychologist. That's why you didn't laugh. And Tip O'Neill was the Speaker of the House before he retired, and that's how we got him. That gave you a flavor of what we were projecting to the consumer. We were big, we were heavily assorted, and we had service. Now we have 8 stores, and we're doing road shows. And a road show we're going because there's a possibility we may take, the VCs may want to take the company public someday. So while we're on the road shows, I get a phone call from Kmart, Joe Antonini, who was the chairman at the time. And he said, we'd like to talk to you about acquiring you. And that was music to my ears, because by this time, my hair started to turn gray. The VCs were driving me nuts, and I knew that I couldn't live like this too much longer. So Mr. Antonini came to me, and he made a tremendous offer. He offered, I said, the only way I'm going to get rid of these guys, and remember, the company is 1.5 years old, and they had all the money in it. I had nothing in it. I was just the operating CEO. They invested $9 million. I said, can you give me $100 million? I had 8 stores, we were losing money, and I had the cojones to ask for $100 million. And he said, I'll give you $50 million now and $50 million if you hit certain milestones. I said, that won't work, because while I'm hitting those milestones, these 8 guys are going to be driving me nuts for those 3 years. Came up with an offer of 75 cash. Now you got to understand something. Here's Kmart that's got their own problems running their company, and they want to get into specialty retailing. We had 8 stinking stores, and we weren't making money on the bottom line collectively. The stores were making money, but because of the G&A, we weren't making money yet. They ended up closing the deal. They paid $75 million. Most of them were furious. Mitt Romney appreciated what we did, and they took the money and ran. Now I'm part of Kmart. And Kmart's saying, it's your baby. Run. Run hard, run fast, but don't change what you're doing. And I didn't have any intentions of changing what I was doing. I still kept the same service specials. Now let me tell you about service for a moment. One of the things that we had were a greeter. Now when you walk into a store, most greeters will say, stores that have greeters will go like, it's over there. Well, our store was very big. And if you went like over there, the consumer would never find out what she was looking for. So one of the policies we had is that the greeter not only took you by the hand, walked you to that department. So if the woman was looking for aerobic wear, he walked her back and they came back to a spot. That was a discipline that we put in that had to stay as we grew the company. Sure, it affected payroll a little bit. Other things that affected payroll is that we made sure that every person in the store was trained on the register. Why? You've been to stores where you could stand in line, 3, 4, 5, 6 people deep, and there's only 2 registers open, and they have a bank of 6 registers, but there's only 2 open, and you're standing there with the goods in your hand? That didn't work for Sports Authority. Sports Authority, we made sure that every employee was trained on a register, that we could open up a register as soon as the line went too deep. 2 people in line, open another register. Service. So when that customer left that store, geez, that's something. They really take care of me. And it was important that we did this throughout the country. Now, when we started to expand, being in a Florida company, you had to say, well, what happens when you open in Las Vegas, Anchorage, Alaska, Hawaii? What happens when you open in these faraway markets? How do you get your culture through to these people? Well, here's what we did. We would hire the people in the local market, and then we'd uproot them from their houses, and they'd come to sunny Florida, and that's where they would train. And they'd be there for 4 to 6 weeks. But when they left sunny Florida, they were experienced TSA employees. In other words, it wasn't like when you open, some of these times you go into a new store that opens in a new market. I understand Crate and Barrel's coming to this market. And I guarantee you that when that store opens up, there'll be a manager with a boutonniere in his lapel that he was hired probably 2 weeks earlier, and you ask him a question and he wouldn't know we have the answer for you. At Sports Authority, when we opened up a store in another market, they knew what was asked them. They knew that store like the back of their hands. They knew everything about it. They were trained. Training the people meant so much. Remember, we weren't the cheapest guy in town. I'll tell you about being cheap. We opened up a store in Orlando. Right across the parking lot was a Walmart store. So on opening day, I made every opening day for every store. And then we went in, I saw the store was lined up nice, and I said, let me walk over to Walmart and see how they're doing. Well, we had a can of tennis balls that we sell for $1.99 all the time. I walked over to Walmart, it was $1.89. All right, I went back. I said, Mark, our ball's $1.88. Went back to Walmart, $1.78. This is in the first hour of opening. Walked back to my store, take it to $1.49. Went back to Walmart, $1.48. Now, what I found there was no way I was ever going to be cheaper than Walmart. So at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, when this ridiculous going back and forth was over, I put the balls back to $1.99. We sold as many balls as we've ever sold in our life. Walmart couldn't compete with us. Why? Walmart never had the brands that we had. See, Nike, Reebok, Adidas, Titleist wouldn't sell Walmart, but they sold us. So when the consumer wanted something in the sporting goods category, they came to us anyhow. So it didn't make any difference that they were 10 cents cheaper. We still had the right price. And we were that price 7 days a week, every day. It never changed. So as we grew this company, and Walmart gave me the power to really grow quickly, we were growing at the rate of 20% a year. At the end of 4 years, we had 100 stores. Now, 100 stores, to get your message across is pretty difficult. And people were talking about Kmart this, Kmart that. Could we play tape 1, please? I'd like to show you a little interview that was given right after the Kmart acquisition.
Today on Sports Marketplace, America's rising tennis star Todd Martin. The sports industry goes green, the 1994 Super Show, Sports Authority CEO Jack Smith, and exciting new products. The Sports Authority, touted as the one-stop shopping experience for the sporting goods customer, is the brainchild of Jack Smith. A subsidiary of Kmart, the store was founded in 1987.
I always like going into a sporting goods store. You always like to pound the glove and to swing the bat and swing the club. But really, sporting goods is something, it's an adult toy store. And I got the idea for Sports Authority when we were at Herman's. Why not a big store? I mean, you had Toys R Us, you had Home Depot, big stores, always successful. Why not Sports Authority? And that's where we came up with the idea.
Who does Smith see as his competition?
Kmart's my competitor. Walmart's my competitor. The local mom and pop store is my competitor. Everybody that sells my merchandise is my competitor.
And how does he compete?
Take care of the customer. The customer, the customer, the customer. The only difference between us and our competitor is them, the service, the people on the floor. And that's what makes the difference between the Sports Authority and our competitors.
A lot of sporting goods stores that have tried to go from being regional to national have had a little bit of problem. How can you be a national store and still have regionality?
As an example, we started in South Florida, and believe me, when we opened up in Boston, we was a completely different market and a completely different type of merchandising. The customer in St. Louis looks for different things at different times in the stores, and you just have to be professional.
There are now 82 stores in 22 states around the country with plans to open 26 more by the end of 1994. But while the Sports Authority expands, the industry does not.
It's a $32 billion industry. We are today the biggest player in it, and we're only at $607 million as of fiscal 93. As we take more market share, and that's the difficult part for us, to get more market share. Obviously, the industry's not growing as like we like to see it.
Nike, the largest vendor in the sports industry, until recently refused to sell to the Sports Authority.
Nike will be the biggest change in the Sports Authority over the past couple of years. And I'll tell you what's been happening. The consumer comes in looking for Nike, does not see Nike. We have found that 97% of the consumers walked out buying something else. So in one respect, it's going to help Nike. In another respect, it's going to definitely help the Sports Authority. We think it'll increase our business overall. I'll be honest with you, I'm very excited about getting Nike apparel. I think that'll be a great addition to our business.
The industry continues to heap accolades on the Sports Authority, but the one thing Jack Smith is especially proud of is being a drug-free company as acknowledged by President Bush. So what product does CEO Smith say is hot?
Inline skates. 20 years ago, I beg your pardon, 15 years ago, I walked through the sporting goods show, saw a kid running around McCormick Place wearing a single line skates. I said, what the heck is that? Oh, that thing will never sell. So much for my entrepreneurial skills. Today it's the hottest category we have.
As for the future, Smith says he's excited about what lies ahead.
We are going to become a public company this summer, and which means that every employee in this company is going to have a piece of the rock. They're going to have a piece of their own business. And we think that's going to make an enormous difference going forward to all of our employees and to the company.
The Sports Authority really does make sure they have sports authorities on staff. They currently employ 2 world-class milers, a past member of the professional golf circuit, and several state long-distance runners. Well, that's all the time we have for this edition of Sports Marketplace. Thanks for joining us, and be sure to join us next month when we'll feature kids and fitness, the pint-sized market that just keeps getting bigger. Bye-bye, everybody. For more information on products or sponsorship opportunities, please write to Sports Marketplace, 530 Lincoln Road, Suite 200, Miami Beach, Florida, 33139. That's 530 Lincoln Road, Suite 200, Miami Beach, Florida, 33139.
Thank you. One thing I forgot to tell you about the Nike story. When I was at Herman's, and I was their #1 customer, Nike loved me. Reebok loved me. They all loved me. Couldn't do enough for me. We were their biggest customer. When I opened up my own store, everybody started lining up to sell me. Nike stayed away like I had the plague. And they wouldn't sell me. And I said, why? What happened? Did I get stupid overnight? What's wrong? They were afraid that we would offend some other retailers. So Nike was a very, very independent company. Well, my people wanted me to transship goods from other dealers, other Nikes, and so I'd have it on the floor. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that to the people who were selling me. So we didn't sell Nike. We didn't sell Nike for 4 or 5 years. We sold as much footwear as we ever sold at Herman's. The stores were averaging $10 million a store, and we were selling 33 to 35% of our volume in footwear. Well, when I decided to open up outside the country, and I'll tell you about that in a minute, we were going to partner up with a company in Japan, and they wanted us to partner with them. Well, the Nike people in Japan said, you've got to have Nike shoes in your stores. So I went to Phil Knight. I said, if Nike Japan wants to sell me, why won't you sell me? That's how we ended up getting Nike. And our business grew even more. And like I mentioned on the tape there, the apparel business was more important to me than the footwear business. Because the Reeboks were selling, Adidas was selling, all the brands were selling. We didn't have that real athletic apparel that we needed. Well, let's talk about the Japan issue for a moment. A professor at Harvard Walter Salmon was friends with Chairman Okada, who owned a company called Jusco. They were the third largest retailer in Japan, the third largest. They were department stores and shopping centers, and they wanted to bring Sports Authority there. Now, normally what they do, they work a deal with an American company like Toys R Us, and Toys R Us would obtain 19% of the business, and the Japanese would retain the rest. And there's a company called Claire Stores. They did the same thing. They own 19%, and the Japanese own the rest. Well, it took me 10 minutes to make the decision, I want to be your partner. It took me 4 months to get off that 19% business so we would be 51% owners. I would not give up the control of my company because it was Japan. Now, what made us so successful in Japan was something that we found in Hawaii. When we opened up our Hawaii stores, we found that the majority of the consumers were Japanese tourists. And they were buying in barrel loads. And I would interview them and I would ask consumers, I said, don't they have these goods in Japan? They have it, but they're 5 times higher than you are. And I did some research and found out that the reason that the Japanese marketplace was selling goods at a higher price was because the manufacturer sells to a distributor, the distributor sells to another distributor, who sells to another distributor, who sells to another distributor, then to retail. So let's take the old can of tennis balls. We were able to sell tennis balls in Japan at a little higher. I think it was $269 because we had the little freight problems. That was versus what the Japanese marketplace was selling tennis balls at $9 a can. That just gives you an idea of how the distribution levels changed. Well, obviously, when we opened up the first store in Japan, it was extremely successful. We had people lined up, maybe 500 yards around the corner of the store just to get into the store. We had to give them numbers to get into the shoe department. You know, numbers, one that like you would go to a bakery and you get a number to be waited on. Well, I remember they called out number 24 and 4 people raised their hand. The numbers had cycled 4 times. The store became very successful. And today, the Japanese marketplace is $1 billion. And if you walked into a store in Japan, you would know if you were in Japan or Fort Lauderdale or Hawaii. The stores are laid out exactly the same. Only difference is, no, we don't have hunting equipment in Japan. It's a no-no. But the footwear is the same. The exercise is the same. Sizes are different. A lot of smaller people. So we go, how to get our manufacturers to go small and super small. But it's the same concept. And you see the same greeter. And you see the same disciplines in the store. Now, every time we opened up a store, I visited every single store. Every store. No matter where it was. Anchorage, Alaska, Hawaii, Las Vegas. Everywhere I visited the store for opening day. And I made my little speech. We had 110, 120 employees. They all came. We served coffee in Danish. And part of the speech was, looking at a beautiful, brand new store. And my speech would go similar, like something like this. Who's the most important person in this store? Store manager? Nah. Buyers? Always get another buyer. The people, the clerks that work I can always get them. Who's the most important person in this store? And you know who I turned to? The cashiers. The cashiers were the last person that the customer saw. As she walked out of the store, if that cashier is chewing gum, if that cashier is not smiling, if that cashier is not effervescent, that's what the customer remembers. She doesn't remember anything else. She remembers that she wasn't waited on properly. They took her money, they gave her a problem. She's concerned that she waited four people in line in front of her. That was a no-no at Sports Authority. Those were the disciplines that we had to carry on for the 12 years that I ran the company. For 12 years, that's the way it went. And if you didn't believe in that culture, you really weren't going to be an employee of Sports Authority. And the day we went public, I'll never forget it, the day I die. It was the most exciting people ever were the employees, because they were all now looking at, they weren't part of Kmart anymore. They were a public company on the New York Stock Exchange. And it was exciting. They were shareholders. The store managers had parts of the company. The employees saw a sign in the workout room, in the rec room, showing what the price of the stock was every day. There was a pride of authorship. I mean, it was wonderful. And I might add, the stock flew. Opened at 19 that day, and at the end of the day, it was 26. Well, I had to get a board of directors put together. So who do I get? Well, I called Mitt Romney. Mitt, how about joining my board? He did say yes. I had Julius Erving. Everybody know who Julius Erving is? Dr. J, basketball player? No? Okay. He was pretty big. Jack Kemp. He was a football player for the San Diego Chargers. He also ran for vice president of the United States. He was on my board. I had people on my board that were sports related. I had people on my board who were smart, people who could help me. It was definitely not what you would call a sweetheart board. It was the kind of a board that stopped me from making mistakes. Too many companies that fail today have what they call sweetheart boards. They have Cousin Louie, Uncle Harry, and their best friend. They were their board members. So the board members tell the management what they want to hear. That's what happened to Kmart, by the way. That's what was Kmart's downfall. They surrounded themselves with board members who had no retail experience, nobody to help poor Joe Antonini out. I wanted people that would help me. I wanted people that understood sporting goods, understood the way we did business. But now we're a public company, and now the company is really growing. We had 100 stores in if I remember, I think it was 97. I forget what year we went public. We had 100 stores. We were opening our first store in Japan. We had a store market we were going to open up in Canada. We were really booming. And all I was doing, by the way, I had to do things via the video. I couldn't get to all the people all the time. Would you play the second video, please?
Hi, I'm Jack Smith, Chairman and CEO of the Sports Authority. We're the largest full-line sporting goods retailer in the world, and we've only been in existence since 1987. In less than 10 years, we hit the $1 billion mark. Now, we didn't get here by chance. At the Sports Authority, we have a clear definition of who we are and how we do business. And we continually refine ourselves to meet the ever-changing needs of our customers. Now, we developed a mission statement which highlights our commitment to the customer, which will deliver a substantial return on the investment. It's our mission to create a shopping experience, establishing the Sports Authority as the first choice for the sports, leisure, and recreational customer, while obtaining an average annual long-term earnings per share growth rate in excess of 25%. Now let's talk about what this means to each one of us. Regardless of your role at the Sports Authority, whether at the store or any support functions such as the corporate office, we all have our customers. The stores have their retail customers, and the corporate staff have their stores as their customers. What separates the Sports Authority from other retailers is our focus on each one of our customers. This concept of customer satisfaction at all levels is defined by 4 important factors that we call the factors to success: the customer experience, the employee experience, operational quality, and financial results. Now, before I turn you over to Kelly Conway for specific details, I want to tell you what I really believe is important to the company. You and your personal commitment to make this mission a part of your everyday TSA life. This is what's going to make the difference between the company and the customer, coming together and making TSA the greatest place to work and also to shop. I want to thank you for your attention, and now here's Kelly.
Hi, I'm Kelly Conway, and next to Jack, I'm the longest-term employee with the Sports Authority. I've been here since the beginning, and it's been terrific to watch the company's growth. However, I'm here to talk more about where we're going than where we've been. As Jack mentioned, we'll review the mission statement and our 4 factors to success in greater detail. We hope that this review will become a part of your experience at the Sports Authority and also become the way you think about what we do. If you'd like clarification on any point raised today, don't hesitate to contact your supervisor and discuss it further. As a matter of fact, we hope that this presentation will generate many discussions about the company's goals and the methods we'll employ to achieve success. As new challenges present themselves, we'll continuously evolve and improve our approach to success while maintaining the integrity of the 4 factors. First, I'd like to review the mission statement that Jack discussed with you. Again, our mission has 2 components. The first component deals with creating a shopping experience for our customers, which establishes TSA as the first choice for the sports, leisure, and recreational customer. The second component is a commitment to our long-term financial growth and stability by obtaining an average annual long-term earnings per share growth rate in excess of 25%. This statement is designed to be fluid and allows us to continually refine and improve who we are, what we are, and how we do business. We recognize that the world and our business is constantly changing. We needed a way to respond in a thoughtful and timely manner to these changes. Our way was to develop the mission statement, which provides direction for us during the coming years. This mission statement is our direction now and will remain our direction. How we interpret and adapt the mission will change as our business issues change. This gives us the structure to work within as we meet the needs of our customers, employees, financial partners, stakeholders, and all the communities that we serve. The method we've designed to achieve our mission is based upon 4 key factors. Each factor is of equal importance, and we can only achieve our mission if we're successful in all 4. The 4 factors are the customer experience, the employee experience, our operational quality, and our financial results. The degree of our success with the customers, employees, and operations is measured by our financial results. We believe that if we succeed in each of the factors, our bottom line will show it. Let's look at the first factor, the customer experience. Our challenge is to deliver a shopping experience which consistently meets or exceeds each customer's unique expectations by providing information, services, and products in a selfless manner that builds trust and long-term relationships. Wow, what a mouthful. Let's break that down into finer components. I look at consistently meeting and exceeding unique expectations as somewhat of a conflict. Not too often do our customers come in looking for the same treadmill 2 weeks in a row. Our customers, whether they come in Tuesday afternoon, Saturday middle day, doesn't matter. They're looking for different things every time they come into the store. Our job is to make sure we're right there, that we talk with our customers, find out what it is they're looking for, and find a way to get it for them. The components of that are pricing, in-stock, selection, making sure we're merchandised to meet their expectations. Product, information, services, these are what we provide at Sports Authority. But the product, I think, is not as important as information and services. We've been on a level playing field with our competitors for some time now. Our information and services are our unique opportunities. Lots of times our customers come in and in a conversational manner want to know where the 10K clubs are, what are the fish biting on, what's the best par 3 golf club in town. That's information that they're coming to us to get. Services, think of your haircut. You go back time and time again because that's where you go for it. I'd love for our customers to break a string on the tennis court or lose their line on their reel and immediately think, I need to go back to Sports Authority and get this fixed. That's a relationship. That's long-term. These are selfless acts in the way we think. Selfless, trust, long-term relationships, these aren't words one commonly associates with retail. But I think if we act this way, if we act in a selfless manner, our customers will come to trust us and that long-term relationship will grow. Whether we're corporate or field personnel, think of yourself as a shopper. What do you want? What do you expect? What delights you and what makes you mad when you go into a retail experience? And think about how to translate that out. Now, who creates our customer's experience? You do. This takes us to our next factor, employee experience. Our aim is to provide an enjoyable employment experience which encourages initiative, development, and a sense of accomplishment while rewarding individual and team contributions in an atmosphere of mutual respect and accountability. Working in retail, an enjoyable experience? Well, if we encourage initiative, provide development, recognize our employees' accomplishments, it can be enjoyable. Many times we think that rewarding contributions comes in the form of a paycheck. That's often not the case. There are things we can do within each department and within the stores to create our own reward systems. Creating an atmosphere of mutual respect and personal accountability are fundamentals for any employment experience. But here at the Sports Authority, it's that much more important because of the diversity of our corporate departments and our field operations. Regardless of where you work in this organization, the common thread is the mission statement and how each of us creates the experience, making us the first choice. The third factor is operational quality. Our objective is to create an operational and merchandising environment that continuously improves the quality of our systems, processes, and procedures by becoming more efficient, effective, flexible, responsive, convenience-driven, and quality-focused. Efficiency and flexibility are the keys to our business. We stated before that our customers' expectations are unique, therefore our solutions to their needs should be the same. A policy or procedure that works in one situation may not be the best answer in another. Many of us are comfortable in an environment of rules and procedures, towing the line. At the Sports Authority, we've created a lane. We allow ourselves the room to maneuver so that with the best interest of the business in mind, we consistently execute the challenge of our mission statement. The fourth factor concerns our financial results. Maximize long-term profitable sales while consistently improving the productivity of our expenses and capital. I think it's quite evident that by satisfying our customers, providing for our employees, and creating an effective merchandising and operating environment, we can't lose. It's easy to create sales, but more difficult to make them profitable. At the Sports Authority, we make huge investments in our inventories, facilities, and systems. We owe it to ourselves and to our investors to ensure that our investments are productive. Along the way, if we see that the financial results are not materializing, I think it's as easy as reviewing the customer experience, the employee experience, and our operational quality to find the answers. Okay, we've reviewed the mission statement and the 4 factors. Now let's talk about why we're doing this. It's quite simple. It's for our customers. Whether your customer is at the store or is the store, our organizational structure is designed around the customer. As you can see, this structure places the focus on the customer with diminishing focus on those not directly connected. Not that our management or our corporate divisions are not important, but the fact is their impact on the retail customer is not as direct as that of our store personnel. In a sense, everyone beyond the customer and the sales associate is a part of a large support structure. By understanding that support structure and where each of us fits, we will create an experience that will make us the first choice for the sports, leisure, and recreational customer. I, for one, am very excited about the direction we're taking here at the Sports Authority. I believe that the strategy of our mission statement, the 4 factors, and this customer focus is the path to our continued success. But we need your commitment to this path so we can achieve these goals and continue to meet our customers' needs. Thanks for your attention.
That's what we're all about. Now, originally I was asked to speak about the change in retail. The change in retail has to go back to that. I'm sorry to say that Sports Authority today isn't like that anymore. It's got too big. The founders of various companies have left their companies. Today, Sports Authority is over $3 billion a year in sales. That's not counting Japan. Japan does 50 million, 50 stores doing it's $1 billion. I got my numbers mixed up. They do $1 billion alone in Japan, and they're in the process of taking the company to China, Singapore, and throughout Asia. The Sports Authority doesn't own the 51% anymore. This was done after my retirement, where they sold it back. The company today is not what it was. They got bigger. Management has lost sight of what it really has to be. I took that tape and I sent it to the current CEO. I said, use this. Get the people back thinking like that. I'm sorry to say that a lot of the retailers that I learned from aren't around anymore. Bernie Marcus is no longer with Home Depot. Home Depot's had their problems. Toys R Us was founded by Charles Lazarus. He's no longer there. Toys R Us has had big problems. The issue is when you start a business and you start with principle and culture, you know what you're going to do. There are no shortcuts. There are no fast ways to get to success. Sports Authority is still a very successful company. A lot of the retailers that were there are no longer there. In my opinion, retailing is shrinking to the big guys. There'll be bigger players, fewer players. My opinion, in 20 years from today, Nordstrom and maybe Macy's will be the only 2 department stores around. Kmart won't be around. Sears won't be around. JCPenney's trying to reinvent itself now. I don't know if they'll make it. The times are changing. Gasoline is high as it's ever been. People don't have the time. Husband and wives are working. They don't have the time for casual shopping, to answer an ad and find out the goods aren't in stock. Here's a rain check. Come back 4 days later. People get offended to that. People want to be served. So what are they doing? They're spending their money wisely. Some are spending it online. They're not even going into the stores. I don't know if that'll affect sporting goods as much because in my opinion, sporting goods, you have to hit it, swing it, play with it, bounce it. You don't get that feeling when you buy things online. But I know other retail, it's happening. Retail is shrinking. I'm sorry to say it's shrinking in the wrong direction. What we've got to do for those who are involved in any part of a retail business, the message has got to be the customer. Forget the price. Forget how cheap you could sell it. It's got to be the customer. It's got to be the kind of, you want to treat the customer the way you would want to be treated. You want the kind of service that they give. So, my story's coming to an end. I hope what I'm giving you is what they've asked me to talk about is the evolution of retail and how it's changing. And the only way I thought I could do that would be to tell you the Sports Authority story. That's the story that made the company the biggest company in sporting goods in the world, and they're going to continue to grow because there'll be fewer competitors out there. The industry's getting smaller, but they're getting bigger. With that, I'd open it up to any questions, or don't throw any vegetables at me. This is a very good jacket I'm buying. Anybody have anything you want to say? No? Anybody? Anybody want to know where I bought this jacket? No? I've got a question.
My question will be in Spanish, please.
Will be in Spanish?
Yes.
Just coming over to get my tools.
Okay.
I knew I should have taken Spanish at school. Took Latin. I wanted to be a doctor. My mother thinks I was playing the violin at Carnegie Hall. Okay?
Okay. Mi interés es tres cosas o más que nosotros los fabricantes debemos de poseer para seguir estando presente en los anaqueles de una tienda y de toda la competencia, o sea, alejarnos de la exclusividad en el distribuidor.
Yes. If I understand your question, being exclusive for the female shopper, did I get that right or no? Give it to me again.
Okay. Actualmente los fabricantes tienen la presión de algunos distribuidores de manejarse en exclusiva.
I got the message. Yes. However, the brands are cheating the people. And what they're doing, and I'll give you an example. There are chains like TJ Maxx, Ross stores that sell off-price branded goods. And they say they'll sell Calvin Klein, they'll sell Pierre Cardin, they'll sell all the quality brands that you would find in the exclusive stores. What is happening now is that the manufacturers are manufacturing for those chains, and it's not the exact same goods that you're buying exclusively. There has to be exclusives. Why should Bloomingdale's or Saks Fifth Avenue carry an item that's going to be footballed and discounted around? So there has to be exclusives for them. But when you go into these discounters and these off-price stores and you see brands, believe me, they're not the same quality brand that you have in the department stores. Also, you find that there are companies like Major League Baseball. They're worried about people knocking them off, goods coming from overseas and selling with the Yankees or the Mets or whatever, and there are arrests that are made. I mean, it's that serious to keep exclusive. Now, as Sports Authority, I would not carry, I'll give you a quick story, if I may. There was a brand called LA Gear. I don't know if you remember the LA Gear brand. It was a good brand. We sold a heck of it. It was terrific. The president came to me and he said, listen, I've got an offer to sell my goods to Walmart. He said they want to give me 1 million pair shoe order. It's a lot of shoes. And I said, well, the day you give that order to Walmart, you will never sell me another pair of shoes. I said, I won't carry the shoes. I will not go into a price war with somebody like Walmart. So Walmart, wrote an order. The first order was for 200,000 pairs of shoes for the chain. And they sent them a $99 shoe, put it on the shelf, and never sold. They canceled the order. LA Gear today is no more. Sporting goods retailers wouldn't carry the brand because it was an exclusive brand for the sporting goods people. And that's why exclusivity is important to some retailers. To a manufacturer that has Nike's perfect like that. Nike will not let their shoes go everywhere. They only go to certain retailers. They won't sell Walmart. You won't find Reebok in Walmart. I doubt very much you'll find Adidas in Walmart because they'll buy, if they're closeouts, they'll buy from somebody else, but they won't buy fresh, brand new product. I hope I answered your question. I did?
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Acá otra en español. Jack, muchísimas felicidades por la plática. Hay una pregunta un comentario donde dices que no hay atajos ni caminos rápidos. ¿Cómo haces para convencer precisamente a los mandos altos de que no vas a llegar después de tu estrategia en 2 días al número que están persiguiendo de venta?
I'm not getting it. Maybe you give it to me in Spanish, if you would. Yeah.
Claro que sí.
Okay.
¿Cómo logras en convencer a los altos mandos de que, al director general, a la gente que decide, de que no hay atajos rápidos y que el logro de las ventas no va a ser a partir de la estrategia en 2 días, en 1 semana o a veces en 1 mes?
Very good question. I'm sorry you asked it because it's going to make me look like a bully. But to be honest with you, I couldn't handle mediocrity and I couldn't handle failure. And in the beginning, if I walked into a store and I saw a cashier chewing gum, I fired her on the spot. If I saw the greeter point to the back of the store to a consumer, I fired him on the spot. And when I walked into a store and I found a line of 20 people lined up to get it in the cashier, I fired the store manager. Now, I didn't have to do that a lot. That message got around, that our disciplines were exactly as you saw in that tape. We work for the customer. And if you can't see yourself working for the customer, get out of this business. Go ahead and pick cotton somewhere, but get out of the retail business. The customer is the most important part. That's how we got this culture for the 12 years that I was with the company until I retired. That's the way it worked. And it was a family. I'll be honest with you, after the 2nd year in business, I don't think I ever let an executive go. We may have had a few people resign because she got pregnant, he got married, whatever, but we never had to do that. We never had to have that strong discipline again. But when we started, it's like when you're raising your children. If you teach them the right way from the beginning, they'll grow up to be good young kids and good adults. And that's what Sports Authority was. They were young and they grew. And now today, by the way, there are over 10,000 employees at Sports Authority. And you walk into a store, sure, they're happy and they know what they've got to do. There's certain things that are missing that hurt me but maybe the average consumer doesn't see it. It's still better than everybody else. They still have some disciplines. I hope I answered your question.
Sí, gracias.
Sí, muchas gracias.
Wait a minute. I knew that Latin wouldn't have got me anywhere.
Muchas gracias, Jack, por compartir tu historia con nosotros. Me da la impresión de que al principio, cuando comenzaste a abrir tus tiendas, el sistema de franquicia hubiera sido una buena opción. La pregunta es si lo consideraste en su momento. Y la segunda idea que quiero compartir es el servicio al cliente parece fluctuar. A veces llegamos a empresas como Starbucks y el servicio nos parece increíble y de repente hay temporadas donde baja el servicio. Nos encontramos en la misma tienda, personal que no nos atiende como nos acostumbra y esto sucede en muchas empresas. Creo que aún no está resuelto el tema del servicio. Quizás parece que de pronto ya tenemos la clave, pero de pronto se pierde. Y es algo que tú mismo viste en tu tienda, que actualmente se ha perdido algo de lo que habías encontrado. Muchas gracias.
Thank you. Your on your first question on franchising, we had plenty of people that wanted to franchise us. But I said to myself, look, I don't need their money because we were part of Kmart at that time. And even if we weren't, I knew that they would not keep the same standards that I wanted. You see in franchises, you can go into a Burger King that's a company-owned store and you see some certain standards, then you go into a franchise store and it's different. Same way with Starbucks. And I'm sure that Howard, the CEO of Starbucks, he's lost a little touch also. It's sad, and I know the Home Depot is going through it now with the retirement of Bernie Marcus, who was, like myself, the founder of the company, where things are a little bit different. They're not the same. And I agree with you. It's sad from the consumer's point of view not to see the way it was. We made it too easy for them. I guess with the shrinkage of all kinds of businesses, they were able to overcome that. Sorry to say.
Hello, sir. What's your opinion about the virtual shelf system? You know, like Tesco in South Korea? You know, that system, the virtual shelf?
Say that, I'm sorry.
The virtual shelf. I mean, like, they go through a quick response code, a smartphone application, and the people don't go to the stores anymore. Just a virtual shelf that they put in the subway stations. You know about this new model?
No, I'm afraid I don't.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
No problem.
Yes.
Hi, Jack. I want to know what is your opinion about the private labels model. You know, all the tendency, especially in Europe, where you can go to Aldi or some other retail stores and you see more products than brands. What are your opinion about this kind of evolution?
Could you give it to me slower? I'm something with the sound up here.
Don't worry. What is your opinion about the private labels, private brands in the retail stores? All this model in Europe where you can go to Aldi or some other stores and you see more products that they are, most of them, private labels. And you don't see more brands.
Private label wasn't in our stores. You couldn't sell me private label. You couldn't give me private label. I had to have branded goods. And retailers are leaning more to private label because you could buy a T-shirt without a label on it, nothing, and you could sell it for $4.99. And that same T-shirt that says Adidas is $10. So the retailer thinks he's shortcutting it. And the more they do that, the more they hurt themselves, to believe it or not. I'm not a favor of private label. But some private labels have become labels, believe it or not. I mean, Kenmore was a private label. Kenmore became a label. It became as good as Whirlpool, even though Whirlpool made the products. So I'm really not in favor of it, but I know retailers are going for it, and to me, it cheapens the product. A lot of the product is being made in places where you're not proud that it's coming from, child labor, things like that. I'm definitely against it. But I know it's out there, and I know consumers are buying it because they think they're getting great value, and they're really not. It's hard to say.
Hola, Jack. Mencionaste que, según tu visión, en unos 20 años las tiendas detallistas, es decir, las tiendas pequeñas, desaparecerían. En este momento, ¿tú tienes alguna sugerencia o alguna estrategia que pudiéramos seguir para poder sobrevivir los que tenemos tiendas detallistas pequeñas?
You know, it's sad, it really is. In the U.S., you don't see the corner drugstore anymore. You see Walgreens, you see CVS. You don't see the corner hardware store anymore. You see True Value. I don't know the answer to that. Japan had the answer. When we opened up in Japan, they had a Japanese big store law. It was really an interesting law. They had the big anchor, which was the Jusco department store. And then they had us, Sports Authority. Then they had a lot of little stores throughout the center. And the big store law was on Tuesday, every Tuesday, the big stores had to close, and only the little stores would stay open. Well, do you think that really helped the little stores? The people came to the big stores. If they weren't going to be open, the few came. But that was a big store law to try to help the mom and pops. I don't know the answer now, but I can tell you this. The one thing about the mom and pop stores, the little stores and the little markets, those people give service. They know the customer by their first name. They know what the customer needs are. They're there to help them. I'd like to see more of them exist. The problem is, as mom and pop gets a little older and they retire, who's going to take over? Junior's out there playing golf somewhere. That's the problem. And that's going to be more and more as years go by. You'll see more and more of the real people that were retail all their lives decide to retire and fade away. There's nobody to replace them. It's hard to say. Oh, okay.
Hello, I'm Jorge Cervantes. Actually, I'm going to ask in Spanish. Actualmente las compañías de retail en México están invirtiendo dinero en marketing digital, están invirtiendo dinero en internet, pero no están concretando ventas online. Lo que pasa es que la gente consulta a través de internet los productos y posteriormente la gente acude al punto de venta. Con la vasta experiencia que usted tiene, ¿qué recomendaciones le daría a las marcas de retail para que salten a generar una mayor cantidad de ventas online? Desde el punto de vista de qué tipo de experiencia tienen que generar para que la gente deje de nada más ver los productos en las páginas y empiece a comprar directamente en internet.
Well, you really don't want that to happen. You really don't want the consumer buying online. You want those tracks in your store. You want them coming to your store. So my opinion is, sure, there's online buying, and It hasn't affected the sporting goods business as much as because of what I mentioned before about playing, feeling, catching, and testing the merchandise. You can't buy shoes online. How do you know they're going to fit? You take a size 10 Nike today and a size 10 Nike over here. It doesn't fit. They're not the same size. Online shopping is for buy books. Maybe you want to buy records. I, as a retailer, do not want that. Now, you mentioned what's going on in Mexico. I got a few minutes left to tell you this story. We were invited all over to come, after we opened up in Japan, we were invited to come South America. I was invited by Falabella. It's a department store chain in Chile. And they have stores in Argentina, Buenos Aires. So I flew down, visited with them. We went over to Argentina. The minute they told me about 21% inflation, I figured Sports Authority wasn't going to work there. I made a speech in Frankfurt, Germany. One of the biggest companies, second biggest company in the world, called the Metro Stores, wanted me to partner up with them in Europe. So we went and visited the store in Cologne, and they showed me how they were big in sporting goods. And I walked around the store and I said, tell me about the people, the help in your store. I said, well, this young lady here, she's just started with us. I said, how much does she earn? Now I'm going back, this was about 10 years ago. She makes $30,000 a year. To start? Yes. What are some of the perks? Well, we can't fire her, and she gets 4 weeks vacation. I said, this is the European Unions? I said, sorry, sir, that's not for us. This is what's going on in Europe in retail, because they're pricing themselves out of the marketplace. And South America, I think a Sports Authority would be great here. We found space. It's tight. Brazil, I was in Brazil a few months ago. It's very tight to find good retail space. With that, I outlived my youthfulness. Nobody's thrown any fruit at me. Thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it. And thank you, Obi.